Well, good morning everyone and welcome to another podcast. Happy New Year to everybody. This is my first trip out in the new year. I've pushed quite a way up north on the river and it's the first time I've been out since the floods, and I have to say it's in pretty bad shape actually. There's a lot of the pools and runs that I'm used to have been destroyed, and the sheer power of the water that's been here. I can see the debris and litter that's been left in the trees. I mean, way up the trees, and you can see how the water's crashed over and flooded the valley here. And unfortunately, there's been quite a lot of damage and destruction. I didn't really come out when it was in flood. I stay well away from the river when it's in those conditions. It's just too dangerous. But yeah, it's definitely pushed things around a bit. I'm out after Grayling today, obviously, beginning of January, and I've come to a weir pool that I fished some years ago and did catch a lot of grayling, but it was in summertime, and as the river's been pushed about a lot, I thought this would be a good place to start. It's quite difficult fishing. There's a lot of swirling currents. The weir pool's about 40 or 50 feet across, and there's one distinct race of water on the left-hand side. It's pushing through. I've got my 10-foot 3-weight nymphing outfit today, and I've started off with a couple of Czech nymphs. I've got a heavy double beaded pink shrimp on the point, and then about probably 8 inches above it I've got a lime spot bug, a shrimp impression really. I'm going to venture out into the river and see what we can do. It's going to be difficult today, there's no doubt about it, and it's going to take a bit of a wander around to try and find some fish, I think. There is the chance, the bonus outside chance of a surprise today as well, maybe a little perch or even a chub in this weir pool. The wading's fairly difficult, so I'm just venturing across the river now, and I'll start putting a few casts, I think, into this very fast racy water to start off with, just in case, and then I'll make my way over to the weir pool proper. It's very rocky underfoot here. We'll just have a few flicks out and just see how this little outfit is running down the river. As usual, I've got a high-vis braided loop with some mucilin grease, and that's my indicator. About 3 or 4 feet of fly line and about 8 feet of 5 pounds leader, just straight through monofilament. Right, let's just head up into some of this quicker water, and I'm going to try and put the fly just on the seam, I think, just on the edge of the fast stuff. I think I'll attack it from this side. Obviously the noise of the water here is going to be quite loud, so hopefully you can still hear me above the racket of the weir pool. Doesn't actually feel too cold today. The air temperature is reasonable for the time of year, and I can feel the water temperature on my waders certainly isn't too bad. Well, I've tried the main tongue of the weir pool there and had a good old fish down, and no takes as such. I'm just going to try over the other side, just wade across the river a bit, fish the other side of this tongue of water, and then I think I might have a wander downstream. There's a couple of nice pools down there, or at least there used to be, and the floods haven't pushed things around too much, then we should be able to get in there. Whoa, a bit deep here, bit deep and rocky. Right, let's drop it on the other side of the river and run it down. Yeah, I'm not convinced with that. There's a lot of water coming over the weir still. It's swirling about, and there's lots of twigs and leaves pooling around the river, making it hard to present the fly. So I think it's probably not worth continuing there. I'm going to head downriver, have a good wade down, and see if this pool's still down there. I must admit, I had a pretty horrible season last year with all the water, and I was surprised reading some of the fly fishing magazines and the January issues. A lot of people saying what a good year they'd had, and mine was atrocious. Just sheer volume of water. A lot of the year you just couldn't get on the river. It's just too dangerous, too high. And it just kept coming and coming. Right. I can see a riffle, that looks promising. And we'll see what's left of the pool. It's a nice day though, it's not a nice overcast, not too cold. Nice day to be out in the water. To be honest, for my grayling fishing, I really like a really hard frost overnight. I want it to get right down to freezing. And then the grayling tend to shoal up in the pools, and once you find one or two you can get into several without moving. There's a scooter here. It's come down in the flood. I once hooked a entire kitchen table fishing in high water. It was submerged, floating down the river, and I hooked into it and it reared up in front of me and it didn't half give me a shock. And I was once out guiding, once out doing some instruction rather with a chap, and it was a really tough day, and it was his first time fishing. He wasn't doing too bad. He was really putting lots of effort in. It was pouring down with rain and the river was rising, and he finally said, I'm into a fish, and he pulled up his rod and lifted into it, and up came a used sanitary towel. And that was luckily he saw the funny side of it, but it was slightly disheartening for me from an instructor's point of view after all that effort he was putting in. Right, we're down to this series of pools. It's a series of 3 pools. It kind of cascades down a bit, rocky ledges, and the river flows over the rocky ledges, each forming a riffle with a subsequent pool behind it. The wading is a touch on a tricky side, so I'm just going to make my way over these rocks, and there's some orange ochre water there flowing in, hopefully not too much of it because that can put the fish off a touch. Let me try and get round into the pool without falling in. There we go. Let's venture down a bit and work our way up this series of pools and see if there's a grayling waiting for us. I thought the weir pool was a nice starting point, but very quickly I just got the feel that it wasn't right for the time of year and the water conditions, and there's not really any point kind of flogging it when you get that gut feeling, especially when you've got other bits of river you know are good to go. I'll move down a bit further. I may end up changing my Czech nymphs around here and just putting something slightly lighter on. We'll see. If I start snagging bottom a lot, then I'll definitely change things around. This looks a nice little run actually. Oh, a bit of a hole I've just trod in. Wait, slippy rocks. It's a lot calmer atmosphere than the rushing whirlpool here. Birds are singing away. Old mossy steep walls on the side of the river, and green moss, and the big trees growing out the walls. You know, these trees are 40 foot high. It just shows you how old the walls are. It'll be a big job rebuilding those. And it's through woodland this really now. Lovely area. Do I go down any further? Do I start here? Let's start here and just have a few casts. See how this feels with this heavy Czech nymph on the point. It's not snagging up straight away, so, but there's quite a bit of flow to the river here, so nymph's coming down at a fair old speed. I think the fish are going to be deep, but I'm really going to have to prospect all over the river to try and find one today. And this high water's really moved things about. But the nymph's sinking nicely, it's running down nicely. No hookups on the bottom yet. There's a load of... I said no hookups on the bottom, and then I've hooked up the bottom. It just shallows up here a bit. I think we've lost a nymph there. lost the fly on the bottom, so I've just retied, and I've put on a little grayling jig instead with an upturn hook, so hopefully it will bump across the bottom, hook point up, and not snag me up as much. But in theory that tends to work. In practice you still end up with the odd hook up. Get hold of the odd wading stick and we'll walk up the river a bit. I think I've exhausted that run. There's definitely an orange tinge to the river here, which is not normally here, so I'm wondering if the high waters eroded the bank away and just opened up a big seam of ochre and it's leached in. Maybe a problem, but we'll see. Awkward wading here, to say the least. It's bedrock and there's lots of different shelves and levels of bedrock, so you've really got to feel around. But there's a nice wall on the far bank and a nice bubble stream just running in off the riffle right next to the wall, and if I can just get right and just drop these nymphs in off that wall, I think there's a chance of a fish there. This grayling jig's got a big tungsten bead on it, so it really will get down. It's fairly deep and fairly fast, so we do need a bit of depth here. Can I get around this bit of bedrock? The river's only, I don't know, 30 feet across here, so there's a lot of water coming through. Oh, it is deeper, a lot deeper. Up to my thighs there. And then prodding my wading stick a foot further, I'd be up to my waist. So I think I'm going to avoid that at this time of year. Just tapping out the nymph up and across, 3 or 4 feet of fly line, watching the braided loop come down. And any stops or pauses in that braided loop, I'm going to strike into it. No, right, need to get out of this hole and move a bit further up. Just have a cast or two as I'm walking if I can as well, just in case. Right, I'm now getting across to that wall on the far bank, and feels like a better run here. I see some nice bubbles coming down in a nice straight direction. The Czech nymph's running down nicely. Check my droppers quickly. This is really feeling the advantage of having the 10-foot 3-weight here. Just get that extra reach to get the Czech nymphs in the bubble stream across the far bank, and I can just keep the line off the water with the extra length of the rod just to give me the control over the drift. If you do a lot of Czech nymphing, then a 10-foot or even an 11-foot 3-weight with nice soft action is a real advantage. You will also find that you hook and land a lot more fish because you've got a nice through soft action, so when you're hooking at close range the rod just bends straight away and it plays the fish for you as it puts in that initial fight. And what grayling tend to do, for anyone who fishes for them regularly, they will know, is they roll around in the current and twist and turn, and that's when they often get off. But if you've got a nice bit of pressure from the bend of the rod, and obviously fishing with barbless hooks, that pressure can keep that hook in and just saves you from losing the fish. I'm up to my proverbials here, so just going to venture a little bit further up and keep tossing this jig up. Not touched bottom yet, so it shows you how deep it is in here in this run. No real stops or takes as yet. I just really don't know how these fish are going to be faring today. quite often I'll get to the river and I'll have a real feel for how things are going to pan out and where the fish are going to be, and not always, but a fair amount of the time I tend to be more or less on it. Whereas today, after with all this high water and the way the river's behaving, I really don't know. Try and get a few right close into the wall on the far bank and see if there's anything there. Water's moving at quite a pace now, so that I'm only getting about 4 or 5 seconds drift before I'm having to recast. Right, nothing there, so we'll move up the river again, and this wall continues for another 40 or 50 foot, and I have had some fish out this next run in the past. So I've made a decision this year, which is I'm not going to be taking any trips up to Scotland salmon fishing. Normally go up as much as I can, and this year I've got some fishing available on English rivers. So the plan is, instead of week-long trips up to Scotland, is to explore some of the English rivers, the Ribble and the Tyne, and maybe over onto the up to the Eden as well. But just have a bit of a change from flogging the Scottish rivers. Right, nice long, riffly, fast run. Perfect for Czech nymphing under normal circumstances. But, let's see if there's anything there today. Yes, a marine. Right in the fast stuff, that. Stripping some line as well. It's an out of season brownie. Not what we want. I didn't think that was a grayling. It went off upstream stripping line, and it actually took the jig. Didn't want that. I'm going to move a bit. I don't want to catch any more trout, so I'm going to wander upstream and get away from this run. And the thing is, if you do accidentally get into an out of season trout, don't touch it, keep it in the net, in the water, unhook it quickly and straight back. No messing about. But, it can't be helped, it's just a bycatch, and if you start catching them, just move and try and get back onto the grayling, which is the target species. Right, I've moved up a bit out that run and put this jig pattern back in. See if we can find what we're after. The water's almost getting into white water now. It's real waves on the surface as it rips over the rocks. But I've certainly had grayling in this run before, and certainly in this kind of water as well. They do like fast water, and you will find them sometimes in very, very quick water. I've had some big grayling out of quick water actually. The kind of bits of river that no one else fishes, and real churning white water. Right, that's that run finished. I think what I'm going to do, there's another nice pool further up, but it's reasonably shallow, and this big heavy grayling jig's going to be too heavy, so I'm going to re-rig with a couple of lighter nymphs and just toss them in and run those down further up and see if we can find a grayling. Right, I've made my way across the river and got out, and heading back up the path, I'm going to fish this little pool and run further up. Apparently there's a few nice chub and the odd barbel in here as well. I think they mainly frequent the deeper, stiller areas of river, which actually I'm walking past now. In the springtime, there's quite a few rising trout in here as well. I do get some funny looks when I'm recording a podcast because it looks like I'm talking to myself as I'm fishing. Right, I can get down again, get down the bank in a minute and slip back in and fish up this pool here. I'm not sure how deep it's going to be. Looks fairly deep to me there. I don't fancy that. I think I'm getting a little more cautious in my wading as I get older. Well, this looks good. I can just get in. I can get in, but I'm going to have to get in where I want to be fishing, which is a shame. If I get in and just scoot across the river, I can come back on myself, as it were. Lots of tree roots here all dangling into the river. Just have a look up and down, check there's no one else fishing. No, there's not. I don't want to get in and disturb someone. Right, just scoot across, David, and then fish this up, I think. Is the way to do it. Again, there's a real orange tinge to the river, which I never like. Not to the water itself, but to the rock underneath, and that's the only problem with these floods, is it can run off all sorts of horrible stuff into the river. Oh, deepening up very quick here, so just need to take care wading. River's about 30 foot across, and it's a long straight glide, fast at the top, and a classic deepening and slowing as it moves down. And often on these pools you'll get one side of the river has the current, and it's the bank that you need to get in off. So I've got in and gone across the river, and then I'm wading down, and then I'm cutting back, and it all looks fairly nice to fish here. I think we'll fish this up and then probably be me done. I'm just going to judge a spot where the current drops off enough for me to not want to fish. It's probably about here. I like a good bit of movement when I'm fishing a nymph. Maybe a little bit further down. The bottom's actually quite nice here for wading. It's more gravel than bedrock. Right, let's start here. Again, team of 3 Czech nymphs, but they're not heavily leaded. Got tied them myself. They're just slightly different coloured shrimps. There's a tan one, a grey one, and a reddyish one. So just going to toss them upstream, let them run down, and see if there's anything there. Hazard here is there's loads of branches on the bank I'm fishing towards. I say that I've just put my fly in one, and then the river's brought down a load of trees and branches, and that's what I've got to cast towards, so I'm expecting the odd snag. Oh, that felt like a fish actually. I just had a stop and I struck into it and definitely felt a bump, which is nice. Yes, these nymphs are coming down. I think I've got the weight just about right here. I'm getting a nice drift, and then I'm just occasionally catching bottom right at the end of my drift, so it just shows that the flies are just getting down where I want them to. I'm going to take my time going up here because I know there'll be a fish or two down there. Just prospect about, and I'm going to check my fly actually, because I just snagged a rock, and just occasionally it can blunt them a bit, and that's fine. The advantage of these longer rods as well is when you're fishing the slightly lighter Czech nymphs, you can almost deviate between a more traditional Czech nymphing with a short line, and if you need to, you can just lengthen the line and almost, I don't like the term, but the Americans call it high sticking, so you can actually put kind of half a normal cast out and just lift the line off the water, almost long range Czech nymphing, just to reach them spots that you wouldn't reach otherwise, which is what I'm doing at the minute. I just need that bit of extra distance, and I can't wade it, so I can just use the extra length of the rod to get me there. I'm actually fishing next to a road now. There's a high wall on my left hand side, but it's surprising how quiet it is down here. Well, I think I've had one take so far coming up this run. Definitely felt like a bump. It's just a case of plugging away. I thought I was going to be in there, and it looked like a take, and it was just I think it was a twig. Let's just check the fly again. So I'm going to do my best this year to increase the number of podcasts as well. I get quite a few emails and messages actually from people all over the world who listen, and often it's when's the next one coming out. So I'm going to make my best efforts to increase the number, especially because I've not done as many as I'd like to over the past 6 months or so with the weather and the condition of the rivers and other things as well. And it takes pretty much a full day to obviously come out and do it and edit it, process it, get the levels right, upload it, and I'm into what I can consider a nice bit of nymphing water now. It's coming down at a reasonable pace, and this is where I'm going to expect to, if I do get into a fish, it'll be there or thereabouts on here. It's, do a bit of the long range of stuff just to get under a few tree branches. There we go. Water's about, I thought that was going to be a fish then. I'm about knee deep. A lovely run. It does look absolutely perfect. As I keep saying, I don't quite know what's going to happen today with these fish and where they've ended up after these floods. It wouldn't surprise me this year if we encounter a few salmon in unusual places, because the river's been that high just at the right time of year for salmon to be running up and being able to get over some of the obstacles they would never normally get over even in high water. But effectively this year they've been able to swim into the fields and go round anything and through anything and up anything they want to. So it would not surprise me in the least if we encounter some or hear some stories of salmon in some more unusual places this year. I think that was a fish and I missed that. I was just taking the step and I just took my eye off it for a second, just rejigging my feet so I didn't fall over. Come on, Grayling, where are you? Not here by the looks of it. Still got a little bit to go, but I'm starting to get into the thin stuff at the top of the run. Just starting to run out of options and room a little bit here. Right, last 15 feet of fishing I think here. I'll just fish the riffle at the top just in case. Well, I think that's me done for today. Not found any grayling, but it's been a lovely morning out on the river, and nice to see the river back at a sensible level as well. Thank you very much for listening. For more information on our fly fishing tuition, please visit us at www.peaksflyfishing.com, or for our fishing flies, it's shop.peaksflyfishing.com. Until next time, thank you and bye bye.